put a power supply into a system is going to be rather putting one back in this case, or doing the exact same thing to install a new one. Now, typically when you get power supplies nowadays, they've changed. It used to be a power supply had a power switch on it, but now power supplies sort of put off the question of whether to turn it on or turn it off, and push that off to a soft switch. Typically now what I'm doing is I'm really just finding a place for the power supply. There used to be little slides that they would slide into, but now you pretty much just find the place for it and put the screws in place to hold it into the chassis. I'm just going to put those in very loosely now so that they're in place and I can focus on connecting the cables. This is one of those part of the processes where by making sure you have all the screws in place that you actually end up with no leftover parts, which is a really good thing. Okay, once we've got that in, there's a few power connectors that we're going to put in place. We have lots and lots of the power connectors, which again are the drive power connectors. I don't worry too much about those. But the big one, I got to put the big one back in the motherboard. And it plugs in right about there. And again, it's keyed, so it's really hard to put that in wrong. Although I suppose a truly clever individual could do that. Put that in place, and there's usually a connector to the front power switch or to a fan. In this case, this fan up front helps to keep everything nice and cool. And it's got a power connector of its own that needs feeding. And that's what this little guy is going to do for us. Maybe I'll... And there's never enough Molex connectors, friends. Just never enough of them. That's pretty much what's involved with putting a new power supply in, besides connecting the power to the floppy drives or to the hard drives. But before I leave the topic of power supplies, let's talk a little bit about power protection. You probably know that the juice that comes in off the wall has some serious problems, and if you don't, I'm here to tell you that electrical power in the United States is, well, it's getting worse before it gets better. We keep drawing more and more and more power, but we don't build any more power plants because, well, heavens, I don't want one in my backyard. How about you? So the quality of power is dropping in the U.S., and that means it's really important that you keep the power that goes into your PC nice and clean. Now, this is the tool that most folks use in order to try to bring clean power to their PC. And this is probably one of the major culprits in destroying PC power-wise. Surge protectors, evil, bad, don't use surge protectors. Here's what's going on there. See, a surge protector has a cheap 25-cent device in it called an MOV, metal oxide varistor, in it. And the MOV is good at protecting you against a lot of little surges or one big surge. But once it's had its quota of bad zaps that it's protected your system on, it kind of protects your system by throwing itself on the grenade, so to speak. And once it has died from all those zaps, well, it doesn't come out and say, hey, I'm dead, I'm not protecting you anymore. Instead, it just kind of lies down and lets the surges run right through. And that's really the problem. Some of these surge protectors have lights on them. The lights don't really tell you anything. There's no way to be sure that you're actually getting power protection. What's a better way, I hear you cry? Well, a minimum that I would buy would be a thing called a power conditioner. This is a power conditioner. It's a device, you see the Trip Light calls them line stabilizers or conditioners. And its job is, you're going to notice when you pick these up that they're heavy. If it's not heavy, it's not a power conditioner. Power conditioners have big monster transformers in them, and the job of the transformer basically is to just smooth out all the juice. So in any case, power conditioners, good things to have. Another good thing to worry about, power conditioners help you if you've got under voltage or over voltage, or if you've got surges and spikes. Power conditioners don't help you if there's no power at all. If the power goes out because of whatever reason, you obviously need some kind of battery backup. There are a number of devices out there that offer some kind of battery backup, and it's a good idea to invest in something. It's not unusual at all when electrical grids are overloaded to see the power go whack, whack, on, off very quickly, just enough to make all the alarm clocks blink noon, you know. You can protect yourself against that with a very simple $100 SPS, standby power supply. The SPS's job is to take power out of the battery and give it to your PC when the power goes out. SPS is switching or standby power supply. The thing about the SPS, though, is that it has to respond quickly enough. The best power protection of all, the one that does everything, is called a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply. Now, the minimum I've ever spent for a UPS is $900. They're expensive. There are a lot of people who call their SPSs UPSs, but they're lying. The value of an honest-to-God uninterruptible power supply is that it takes the power off the power line, off the wall, breaks it down from alternating current into direct current, and then rebuilds the power back up into a perfect, pure power line. If you've got one of those water filters on your tap, well, it's a water filter for your PC. Think seriously about an uninterruptible power supply if you have a server or some other system that absolutely cannot have any kind of noise in its line. So your two options are either an uninterruptible power supply or a standby power supply, but standby power supplies only help you when the power's out. Line conditioners, they help you the rest of the time. So your two options are UPS or an SPS in combination with a line conditioner. There's a number of good ones out there. For example, APC, American Power Conversion, offers some boxes which are a combination of power isolator transformers, cleaner uppers here, as well as SPSs. I like those. If you want a good UPS, Exide makes some of those as well that are quite good. Again, you're going to spend a little bit of money on it, but it's one of those things where you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Recommend that you expect to spend several $100s on power protection for your PC.